Today, I want to talk to you about self-doubt and poverty consciousness. And I have been working on overcoming this for years now, overcoming self-doubt and poverty consciousness. And this morning, I began to really understand and appreciate just how deep this viral program is in my subconscious mind. I subconsciously believe more in lack than I do in abundance. I believe subconsciously, actually, let me choose my words very carefully here. I am undoing the subconscious belief and I am reprogramming a new belief. For the majority of my life, though, I have lived under the assumption that lack is the inherent nature of the universe instead of abundance being the inherent nature of the universe. I've seen lack as more of the natural law of things instead of abundance as the natural law. First, let's talk about what poverty consciousness is. It does not necessarily mean that you grew up in poverty, always struggling for food, water, shelter. It does not have to mean that. That is one variation of poverty consciousness. But you can be very successful and actually have a lot of money and, material wealth and still operate out of poverty consciousness. Like I grew up in a an upper middle class home. I never lacked anything. I always had I've had a beautiful education. I always had stuff, always very comfortable, always very well provided for. And yet, me and my family has this subconscious belief that lack is the way of the universe, that you have to work very, very hard to earn money. Money doesn't grow on trees. What do I look like? I'm made of money. So most of us have this very destructive viral program operating our consciousness. So, how do we begin to overcome this? This is like, my gosh, I was just saying to my boyfriend, it's been an easier journey for me to overcome severe abuse, like spousal abuse, for many, many years. It's been easier to overcome that whole mind fuck than it is to overcome self-doubt and poverty consciousness, because we also have a viral program to doubt yourself. So we're taught at a very young age, we begin to disconnect from our soul, from our intuition, from our spiritual centers, our spiritual energy, because it can largely be seen as weird or wrong or strange. And so for any of you who have had this experience, it's like, maybe you talk to things that other people can't see. Maybe you dream about stuff other people don't understand. Maybe you come into this world much more psychically and spiritually open and gifted than pretty much everybody else. And as you begin to get old enough that you can express yourself and your thoughts, you start to tell your parents about things, and they're like, that's weird. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to see that or feel that or know that. So even if your family isn't, even if they're not like mocking you or making you to feel wrong, you just understand that, oh, I'm not supposed to have this ability, so we ourselves shut it down. And then we spend the rest of our lives wondering, like, what's wrong with me and why do I feel so disconnected from everything? And well, it's because you are disconnected and your soul is screaming at you, trying to reconnect that, get you connected back to source, connected to God, which actually was never severed. You only did that through programming, through accepting somebody else's belief. You've said, okay, let me internalize that and make that my belief, which you didn't really do by choice. You just did it and able to sort of operate in safety in your family unit. So, there's no blame here. There's no blame of yourself or blaming family or caregivers. There's no blame. What I'm simply talking about is beginning to accept responsibility for yourself. And I challenge you to look at the depths of self-doubt and poverty consciousness, lack consciousness. And when I got back home from my walk this morning, I was just thinking about, my God, the amount of time I am having to very, very consciously spend in a higher vibration and a higher frequency, I'm having to journal. I'm having to get very, very heart-centered, very connected to God and to my higher self to remind me that faith is the medicine for self-doubt. And man, the message of faith has just been in my face. Thank God, in my face, pretty obvious, for probably the last few weeks, maybe longer. And where do I want to take it from here? Faith helps us overcome self-doubt. And what is faith? Well, faith goes beyond hope. Hope still can have elements of doubt. It all depends. It depends. But let's talk about in the cases where like, oh God, I hope this happens. I hope this happens. I hope this happens. Well, that's actually coming from doubt. That's coming from lack. That's coming from, I don't have this, so I hope it happens. Faith is much stronger than hope. Faith is operating from a place of knowing, even though it hasn't happened yet. So faith is a much higher frequency. It's a much higher vibration. And faith is empowering. Faith is like a sacred flame that provides you motivation. Whereas hope, under certain circumstances, hope is a beggar because hope comes from lack. Hope comes from self-doubt because we don't have it yet. Faith is saying, I know that it's out there. I know it has already happened. It just has not materialized yet in my world, in my outer world. But in my inner world, in my thoughts, in my bones, in my blood, in my soul and spirit, I know that it has already happened. And this is the challenge with faith, is because when we are creating something consciously and it hasn't turned up in our 3D outer world yet, faith is the muscle that allows us to keep going, to keep pursuing, to keep in the resonance of faith, which is the resonance that it has happened already. I am making my way there. Like, there is a version of me out there. There is a future self that already has everything that I desire. For me, my passions are my purpose, and my purpose is why I was sent here. And I am bound and determined in this lifetime to fulfill my purpose. I cannot express to you the urgency that I feel in fulfilling my purpose, my multiple purposes in this lifetime. Like, it is happening. So I feel this great pull and conviction. That's the word, conviction. I feel this conviction, and like my future self is constantly pulling me, my current self, toward it. And that is faith. And I am having to revisit my journal multiple times a day because whenever I get into that really heart-centered space, I like to document it in a journal, in a voice note, in something so that I can go back and say, okay, I know I was connected to God in this moment, and this is the information that I got. Because when I re-enter back into self-doubt, I can pick up this evidence and this knowledge for me to keep my faith that it is coming. So, I mean, to me, what I'm very actively overcoming, self-doubt and poverty consciousness go hand in hand. They're like fucking best toxic friends. So, because typically, like money is a reality of our world. We need it. We need it. Money's not bad. Money's not good. Money is a tool. It's a tool. We need things to exchange for other things, an exchange of goods and services, an exchange of time and energy. Money is an energy exchange. I choose to have my money come from very high frequency endeavors, aka my purpose. So, anyway, basically, I just wanted to talk about my challenges and my overcoming and my perseverance because I mean, pretty much everybody can relate to this in some way. Almost everybody doubts themselves. Almost everybody lives in some kind of lack. And we live life tuned to the thoughts and the energy of, I don't have this. I don't have it. God, I still don't have it. Shit, when is this going to turn up? I don't have it. Well, I guess I'm just not going to have it because I guess I don't deserve it. Whatever kind of crap that our ego spits out at us. That that toxic friend doubt. And I can tell you, so 4.5 years I've been working on this. Other areas of my life and psyche and spirit have had to be healed before I could really tackle this deep, I mean, this is generations deep programming. I say viral programming very purposefully. Poverty consciousness is a viral program, and we don't have to continue to accept that corruption. We can say, nope, I uninstall that. And I am installing this. I am installing prosperity consciousness, wealth and abundance consciousness. And the last thing I want to say is being in the river of abundance and wealth consciousness. When I said at the beginning, we typically are programmed to live in the frequency of poverty versus abundance. That is a natural law. Abundance is a natural law of the universe. So if you don't believe me, let me explain this. When you look outside, just look outside. Everything is abundant. Even if you live in the desert where you're like, well, we don't really have plants here because it's the desert. There's an abundance of sand, like infinite grains of sand, infinite leaves on trees, water, grass, bugs, oxygen, sunlight, moonlight. All you have to do is look out your window to see that you participate in the abundance of this world every single moment that you are here. So we live in abundance. We don't live in lack. The lack is something perceived and accepted. So I ask you, why can't you step into the river of abundance that you're already in when you yourself are a fractal of God consciousness? Fractal just means like a piece of. When you are a fractal of God consciousness, that's what your soul is. That soul is light. That light has manifested itself into form, which is this body. That is actually what you are part of. This wholeness in parts, part of the whole, was the little slogan for the first Joe Dispenza event I ever attended. Wholeness in parts, part of the whole. So we, as individuals, we are wholeness. We are whole, complete beings, separated by different forms, but we are part of the whole being God. We are already in abundance, wealth, prosperity, consciousness. We are already there, being little pieces of the divine that have broken off to have this human experience in this body. So this consciousness manifested form, we come here to learn certain things and to fulfill certain purposes. Then when we're done, we are released from the body, and the soul returns back to wholeness, returns back to God, to source, to the divine, to love. I challenge me multiple times a day to remember that I am already in that frequency, in that flow. That is the natural law of abundance in this universe. And I work every day, multiple times a day, to actually believe this and to know this and to gain experience of this. And man, when I fully overcome poverty consciousness and self-doubt, oh, I cannot wait to see what my life is like when I exist in that frequency up here instead of the frequency down here. Man, I cannot wait to see that. And what would you create if you believed, if you knew that you actually were a fractal of God? How would you be? What would you do? What would you create? How would you live? I think I'm going to go answer those questions right now. Mwah.